What would happen if you stopped guessing what people think about your presence and asked them directly? Not in a 360 survey months from now, not through your coach, right now, in the meeting, in real time. What are you reading from me right now? That question and the courage to ask it is the fastest feedback loop you'll ever build. Decision narration makes thinking visible. Expression calibration makes feelings visible. The silence reading drill reads the room's response. The checking in protocol verifies all of it by asking directly. It's the logical completion of the expression gap toolkit, not as a formal process, not in every meeting. At key moments, after delivering a decision, after sharing feedback, after a strategy discussion, the leader pauses and checks. What did you hear from me just now? What did you read from my expression? The answer tells you whether the internal state made it across the gap. At structured intervals, ask your direct reports, what are you reading from me right now? The specificity of the question matters. How am I doing is too vague. Vague questions get vague answers that you can't act on. In that discussion about the Q3 timeline, what did you read from me? Did it seem like I had a strong position, or did I come across as neutral? That level of specificity tied to a particular moment, asking about a particular impression, produces actionable data that a quarterly 360 can't match. You get the answer while the memory is fresh, while the impression is specific, while both of you can point to the exact moment in question. The expression gap is a visibility problem. Asking, what are you reading from me, makes you vulnerable to hearing that the answer is not much. That vulnerability is the point. It's also the fastest path to closing the gap because the feedback is immediate and specific, not aggregated, anonymized, and delayed by 6 months. You get to hear exactly what one person experienced in exactly that moment. That kind of precision, no survey can match. And yes, it requires courage. But you're here because you've already shown the courage to name your gap and do the diagnostic work. Start with one trusted direct report. Someone with enough psychological safety to answer honestly, not just diplomatically. Ask after a specific interaction, not in the abstract. In that discussion about the Q3 timeline, what did you read from me? One person becomes two. One-on-ones become small team meetings. You build a practice of real-time perception, checking that supplements, but doesn't replace the formal assessment instruments. The scaling path matters. Don't start with a room of 20. Build the practice in low-risk contexts before expanding. The checking-in protocol requires enough trust that the other person gives you the real answer, not the comfortable one. On screen, you can see all 5 practices together. The thinking out loud protocol makes your reasoning visible. Decision narration practice makes your trade-offs explicit. Expression calibration aligns your display with your feeling. The silence reading drill teaches you to read the room's response. And the checking in protocol closes the feedback loop by going directly to the source. These 5 practices, sustained over 12 weeks, produce measurable expression gap closure. You don't need all 5 running simultaneously from day 1. Start with 1, add the next when the first feels natural. By week 4, you'll have 2 or 3 running in parallel. By week 12, they're habits, not exercises. In Module 1, we talked about the difference between behavioral change and perception change timelines. Here's how that applies to the expression gap specific. Behavioral change, narrating decisions, calibrating expression, reading silence, checking in, appears within 8 to 12 weeks. You'll see yourself doing things differently. Others will notice individual moments that feel different. Perception change, stakeholders updating their mental model of you from hard to read to transparent thinker takes 3 to 6 months. That's not because the behavior isn't working. It's because people are slow to update narratives they've held for years. The Genos EQ emotional expression rescore is the objective benchmark. That's how you measure the gap closure with precision, not just impression. Measuring only perception in the first 8 to 12 weeks produces discouraging results. Your behavior has changed, but the audience hasn't updated their narrative yet. They're still seeing you through the old lens. This is where many leaders abandon the work. They're doing the exercises. The behavioral frequency is up, but the 360 rescore hasn't moved yet. So they conclude it's not working. It is working. The measurement is just too early for perception indicators. Track behavioral indicators first. Narration frequency, silence duration, checking in responses. Perception follows behavior, but it follows with a lag. The measurement framework prevents premature abandonment by tracking both timescales separately. In the first 12 weeks, track behavioral frequency. How often are you narrating? What's your average silence duration? What are your checking in responses telling you? Those are your leading indicators. From month 3 onward, add perception indicators. Stakeholder language shifts. 360 rescores. The behavioral change precedes the perception change by months. Without tracking both timescales separately, the work appears to be failing when it's actually succeeding. The framework prevents that false conclusion and keeps you practicing through the lag period where the real compound effect happens. Choose one person you trust, a direct report, a peer, a mentor. In your next interaction with them, after a moment where you made a decision or gave feedback, ask, "What did you read from me just now?" Write down exactly what they say. Don't explain, defend, or correct. Just receive the data. That gap between what you intended and what they received, that's your development edge. That gap is what all 5 exercises are designed to close. Module 4 has given you the expression gap toolkit. Narration, calibration, silence reading, and checking in. The work is not to become a different person. The work is to make visible what's already happening inside. 5 practices, 12 weeks, measurable expression gap closure. If expression was your primary gap, this is where your development work lives. If you also have a secondary gap in authority or context, modules 5 and 6 address those with the same level of specificity. For now, start with one exercise from this module today.